Will Bowen is the founder of the complaint-free movement, which has improved the lives of more than 15 million people worldwide. Will Bowen has been featured on Oprah,
and focus on what's going on good in your life.
NBC's Today Show, CBS Sunday Morning, the ABC World News Tonight, 60 Minutes, and Fox News Channel. Thousands of newspaper and magazine articles around the world have been written about Will, including People Magazine, Newsweek, Forbes, The Wall Street Journal, O Magazine, Self Magazine, and Chicken Soup for the Soul. Will Bowen is an in-demand speaker and trainer who travels the world working with top executives and their employees. Will personally presented his 6 millionth complaint-free bracelet to Dr. Maya Angelou, who provided the foreword for his book, A Complaint-Free World, How to Stop Complaining and Start Enjoying the Life You Always Wanted. That book has sold more than 4 million copies in more than 40 languages. Will Bowen is the author of 5 international best-selling books, a multi-number-1 Amazon best-selling author, an award-winning speaker, the 2016 Purdue University Executive in Residence, and Will Bowen is the world authority on complaining. What causes it, why we do it, and how to get ourselves and others to stop. Please welcome to the stage, Will Bowen.
Hello, it's an honor to be here with you. This is my first, everybody keeps asking me, have you been to Thailand before? The answer is no. So you are my first experience. So this is great. Thank you. What an honor. Thank you all very, very much. You know, I never set out to be the world authority on complaining. This just happened for me. Let me give you a real quick history. I was teaching a class on prosperity in 2006. And when you ask people, do you want to be more prosperous, almost everyone says, yes, of course I want to be more prosperous. The thing I discovered, though, as I was teaching this class, was that people said they wanted to be more prosperous, but they complained incessantly about what they already had. And as Wayne died, you know, when you ask people about prosperity, typically they'll say they want more. That's what prosperity means. I want more money, I want more love, I want more health. But as Wayne Dyer said, if you're unhappy with what you have, why would you want more? It makes no sense. So it occurred to me that prior to teaching people principles for attracting more prosperity, what if I instead taught them to appreciate what they have? Because complaining is always about what is wrong and what is missing, whereas gratitude is always about what is present and what is working. And the opposite of complaining is gratitude. So I challenged people to go 21 days in a row without complaining. Some people believe that if you do the same thing over and over for 21 days, it'll become a habit. So my goal was to get people to try and go 21 days without complaining. And the idea just exploded beneath my feet. I handed out 250 bracelets. That was it. But then people began to call me asking and saying they wanted to take this challenge, and it just grew and grew. And as you can see, we had almost 15 million people around the world take the complaint-free challenge. Now, I tried to figure out how some obscure guy in the Midwest of the United States would create what 60 Minutes and People magazine call a worldwide phenomenon. And I think it's for 2 reasons. Number one, there is too much complaining in the world. If you agree, say yes. One more time, say yes. All right, the second thing is the world isn't the way we would like it to be. If you agree, say yes. Have you ever considered the two are correlated? Have you ever stopped to think that we are so busy focusing on talking about and putting our creative energy into what is wrong, we are perpetuating and attracting more of what is wrong? The way to attract what we want is to be grateful for what we have. Now, people have asked me, what is a complaint? The dictionary defines complaining as to express grief, pain, or discontent. Now, you tell me, which of the words is in yellow on the screen? Express. So by its definition, a complaint must be. I bring this up because every time I speak to a group like this, one super overachiever comes up to me and says they're going to change their bracelet with every negative thought. Or they're going to, and I always say, good luck with that. Because we think on average 45,000 thoughts a day, and most of the thoughts people think, you tell me, are most of the thoughts people think positive or negative? Exactly. I have asked that question all over the world, and the answer is negative. We have a negativity bias. It's what's kept us alive as a species. What we don't realize, though, is how all of that complaining impacts our life, and we're going to talk about that. This is a key concept I want you to get. It is not complaining to speak directly and only to the person who can resolve your issue. That is not complaining. Becoming a complaint-free person is not about just taking whatever comes your way. It's about speaking directly and only to the person who can resolve your issue. So, that is a request for accountability. If I go to someone and they can resolve my problem, they can solve the issue, then if I talk to that person, I'm not complaining, I am making a request for accountability. Does that make sense? Say yes. Let me hear everybody say yes. Good, all right. So, Eckhart Tolle explained it really well in his book, A New Earth. He says, complaining is not to be confused with informing someone of a mistake or a deficiency so that it can be put right. And to refrain from complaining doesn't necessarily mean putting up with bad quality or behavior. He goes on to say, there's no ego in telling the waiter your soup is cold if you stick to the facts, which are always, one more time, facts are always, let me hear everybody say it, facts are always neutral. How dare you serve me cold soup? That's complaining. Complaining always has a, how dare you do this to me? The center of the universe, because that's what everyone believes about themselves. So it is not complaining to speak directly and only to the person who can resolve your issue. Now, one of the things people often ask me is, what is wrong with complaining? Studies have found that complaining costs businesses money, and here's how. Businesses and organizations where there is a lot of complaining tends to have a much higher turnover rate. In other words, people just quit, or they don't show up for work. The absenteeism rate for people who work at organizations where there's a lot of complaining is much higher than it is for positive organizations. And the bad thing about this is the people who quit are your best people. Because your best people know they can get a job anywhere. They also know that they're going to spend 40, 50, 60 hours a week in this environment. So why not be in the most positive environment possible? So complaining costs money because it literally drives good people away. Have you noticed, though, that complaining is a competitive sport? That if one person complains, someone always tries to out-complain that person. It's never the other way around. Complaining always goes in degrees of higher severity, never the other way around. Next time you're with a group of people, and if someone complains, try to under-complain them. In other words, try to come up with something that's a complaint, but is not nearly as big or as bad as what they're talking about. And typically, people will look at you like you're crazy. Don't you know how complaining works? It always goes in degrees of higher severity. And that is why long before the pandemic, I said complaining is a pandemic that spreads from person to person and kills an organization from within. Complaining costs money. Complaining is a competitive sport. Complaining also keeps your focus on the problem. Here's a story that explains this one's pretty well. Two construction workers sit down for lunch one day, and the first one looks into his lunchbox, and he pulls out his sandwich, and he says, "Oh, yuck." And his friend says, "What's the matter?" First guy says, "I got a meatloaf sandwich for lunch." His buddy says, "What's wrong with that?" First guy says, "I hate meatloaf." Next day, same two guys sit down for lunch. First guy opens his lunchbox, looks inside, and goes, "Oh, come on." And his friend says, "What?" And the first guy says, "I got another meatloaf sandwich for lunch." Third day, same two guys sit down for lunch. This time, the first guy reaches into his lunchbox, pulls out his sandwich, crushes it, and begins to stomp about angrily, saying, "I've had it. I have the same thing every day, and I don't like it. I want something else." And his buddy says, "Why don't you ask your wife to make you something else?" And the first guy, still angry, goes, "I make my own lunch." If you get nothing else I say today, let it be an understanding you're making your own lunch every day with the words that come out of your mouth. Positive, upbeat words attract positive, upbeat people and experiences. And complaining attracts exactly the opposite. Complaining costs money. It is a competitive sport. It keeps your focus on the problem, and studies have found that complaining actually damages your health. People who chronically complain have much higher levels of the stress hormone cortisol in their bloodstream. Cortisol can cause obesity, high blood pressure, heart attack, stroke. So people who chronically complain are literally weakening their bodies. But the most interesting study that I've read over the last 5 years is one that was done by Stanford University. They put people into MRI machines to measure the effects of complaining. And they did brain scans on people as they were in there, and they got volunteers to sit outside of the MRI machines and complain to the people. And they asked, "What do you want us to complain about?" Doesn't matter. Complain about politics, your health, your children, whatever. Just complain. And what they noticed was that about the half-hour mark, the hippocampus in the people's brains began to shrink. So they did another study. This time, they put people into MRI machines, but they told them to complain to themselves. They didn't have somebody else outside complaining. They complained to themselves. And again, at about the half-hour mark, the hippocampus begins to shrink. The hippocampus is responsible for creative thinking and learning. So the takeaway is listening to someone complain, even if it's you, can actually make you stupider. It literally limits your brain capacity. Complaining damages your health. It also destroys relationships in two ways. Number one, complaining to somebody lowers the energy in the relationship. Let me ask you a question. Raise your hand if you know someone who complains a lot. This is a two-part question. Raise your hand high. Everybody up, 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 high, high, high. Look around the room. Now, keep your hand up if you enjoy being around and look forward to that person. Notice the hands go down. There was one study where a group of girls got together at lunch and complained every single day. Researchers followed them, and one day, the ringleader of this group of complaining girls wasn't at school. So who do you think, or what do you think, the other girls complained about when she wasn't there? Exactly, her. You know what the takeaway from that is? Even complainers don't like complainers. They don't. So when you complain to somebody, it lowers the energy in the relationship. And when you complain about someone, that causes your brain to literally look more critically at that person to find more to complain about in the future. So complaining costs money, is a competitive sport, keeps focus on the problem, damages health, and destroys relationships. So why do we do it? And this is what I'm here to teach you today. Because we think that we need to handle complaints. And what we need to do is to understand and learn how to work with complainers. People only complain for 5 reasons, remembered by a term we use in the United States, gripe. G-R-I-P-E, which is a casual way of saying complaint. Some countries say whinge, other countries use something similar. Gripe. Now, to make sure that you know when I leave stage today what these 5 things are, and so you'll be able to, the next time you check your phone, the next time you check your email, be able to classify the complaint and know what to say. I'm going to need your help. We're going to do what is called a blab school. Abraham Lincoln went to a blab school when he was a boy. The teacher would say something and the students would blab it back. And what they've discovered is that's a great way, especially for adults, to learn. So for us to accomplish what we're going to do today, I need everybody to participate, because periodically I'm going to ask you to tell me something that I've taught you. So is everyone, I need to hear everybody's voice. Is everyone willing to participate? Please say yes. Great. All right, let's keep that energy. People complain, as I say, for 5 reasons, as remembered by the acronym GRIPE. So I'm going to change the slide, and you tell me what the G stands for. Here we go. The G in GRIPE stands for... Oh, that was underwhelming. Let's try that one more time. The G in GRIPE stands for? There we go. Get attention, which simply means start a conversation. Most people, because we have a negativity bias, are raised with negative communication skills. So what they do is, when they come up to you, they complain. That's all they know. What we don't understand is that we can preset these people to talk to us positively when they come up. I'm going to tell you exactly what it is you need to say, and when I change the slide, I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, go, and everybody's going to read it. Here we go. So this is what you say when someone complains to get attention. Please read this. 1, 2, 3, go. Whatever. Whenever you get around a person who is typically very negative, you want to be preset and ask them, what's going well? What are you grateful for? What are you happy about? What's the best meal you've eaten all week? What's the best movie you've seen? You need to train these people that they can connect with you without having to complain. Does that make sense? Say yes. Beautiful. Tell me, before I change the slide, the G in gripe stands for? See, you're already learning it. Now, the R in gripe stands for? We'll do that one more time. The R in gripe stands for? Very good. This is when you give somebody a task and either they don't want to do it or they don't want to do a good job. But they don't want to look you in the eye and tell you they're not going to do it. This is typically, they'll say something like this. You know, I would love to, but, exactly. I would love to, but. And then they'll complain about the circumstances surrounding the situation so that you will let them off the hook. Now, what you want to do is keep them on the hook without having to deal with all the minutia they're throwing at you. So this is what you say. Again, when I say go, please read it. 1, 2, and stress the underlined word if you would. 1, 2, 3, go. How might who do it? Meaning not? Exactly. This works, but only 100% of the time. You really need to try this. If it were possible, how might you do it? It keeps them empowered without you taking over what you've asked them to do. Time to change the slide. Everybody tell me. The G in gripe stands for? Come on, big energy. One more time. The G in gripe stands for? That's it. The R in gripe stands for? Yes, and the I in gripe stands for? Inspire envy is just another way of saying brag. People complain to brag. I've been fortunate enough to travel the world speaking on this topic, and never have I gone to a country where bragging was considered a good thing. Bragging is rude. So what people do is they don't brag about their good fortune, they complain about their good fortune and still accomplish the same thing. I mean, stuff you might hear. I live near Miami, Florida. Stuff you might hear in Miami is, you know, the worst part about driving a Rolls Royce? How about this? I actually heard a guy say this in a Cuban restaurant the other day. You know the bad part about dating a supermodel? He's bragging. People complain to brag. Now, the way this tends to show up at work is one person will complain about somebody else. Let's say you're going to have a meeting, 8 o'clock, everybody's there except one person, and one of your team looks around and says, well, we could get started. Let's say his name is Tom, because that's important. His name's Tom. He says, well, we could get started, but Julie's late, as usual. And everybody goes, ha, 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 right? Well, here's the thing. Tom is not telling you Julie is late. What is Tom telling you? I'm hearing it. He's on time. He's bragging. So this is what you want to do in a work situation when you've got one person complaining about another person. This is what you want to say or what you want to do. 1, 2, 3, go. Compliment the opposite. So in this case, you would say, Tom, you know what I love about you? You're always on time. It works. It flips it around. Make sense so far? Say yes. Beautiful. Tell me then, the G in gripe stands for? Come on, stay with me. One more time. The G in gripe stands for? That's it. The R in gripe stands for? Yes. The I stands for? And the P stands for? Power. People are power. The more people you have on your side, the more power you tend to have. And nothing gets people on your side faster than making them angry. I call this enrage and engage. Most people are neutral about most things. But if you complain to them about something, many times they will follow along with you. Now, at work, the way this tends to show up is you'll get one prima donna complaining about another person at work, trying to build alliances, basically trying to split your office in half. And so what you want to do is get them to work it out. And this is what you say. 1, 2, 3, go. Exactly. It sounds like the two of you have a lot to talk about, meaning not me. Exactly. Sounds like the two of you have a lot to talk about. Here we go. The G in gripe stands for. Thank you. I love your energy. The R in gripe stands for. Yes. The I stands for. The P stands for. And the E stands for. Every audience stumbles over this, so we're going to do this again. The E stands for. Excuse poor performance. The E in gripe is the past tense of the R in gripe. So, for example, if you ask somebody to do something and they haven't even tried, but they complain about the circumstances, so you'll let them off the hook, that's remove responsibility. But if they've already tried and done a bad job and want to blame everybody but themselves, that's complaining to excuse their poor performance. And what you want to do is keep the person on the hook. And this is what you say. 1, 2, 3, go. How do you plan to improve when? Exactly. You know why? Because no one's defensive about next time. You can accomplish so much more by asking people to think about hypothetical next times than by holding them accountable for what they have or have not done, because they'll continue to muddy the waters. Does that make sense? Say yes. All right, test time. Everybody look at me. The G in gripe stands for. Yes, the R in gripe stands for. The I stands for. The P stands for. And the E stands for. Give yourselves a round of applause. You got it. That is awesome. Congratulations. I want to invite you all to come by the book signing at 3 o'clock. And I also want to encourage you to try and take the complaint-free challenge. Try and go one day to see how you do by not complaining. I want to close with the 3 most common questions people ask me. People often ask, how can I get bracelets? I want to introduce this at work. I want to take this to my kids' class, whatever. And you would go to acomplaintfreeworld.org. acomplaintfreeworld.org. You can get bracelets. Second most common question people ask me is, how do we get you? How do we get you to come and speak? Again, go to acomplaintfreeworld.org. But I have to tell you, the most common question people ask me is, what is Oprah like? You know, she's the same in person as she is on camera. She's just absolutely wonderful, and it was great to be on the show with her. But it's funny because right after we did this segment, she reached over and patted me on the arm, and she said, you know, Will, I have nothing to complain about. You know what I thought? Of course not. You're Oprah Winfrey. What are you going to complain about? You're one of the richest, most powerful people in the world. And my poker face was not working that day. I literally rolled my eyes at Oprah. Like, yeah. And she goes, no, you missed the point. Oprah said, it's not that I have everything that I have, and that's why I don't complain. Oprah says, I don't complain, and that's why I have everything that I have. You see, Oprah gets that she makes her own lunch, and she does it every day with intention and integrity, and you have the same choice. So don't just make lunch, make a magnificent buffet and share it with our world. Thank you all. Come see me at the book signing. It's been an honor. Thank you very much.
No more complaining people. Their lives are changing. We're flying high, creating a complaint-free world. No more complaining people. Their lives are changing. We're flying.